China is one of the most fascinating countries I have ever visited. But if I'm being really honest with you, it can feel a little overwhelming if it's your first time. So in this video, I am sharing the most important things you actually need to know before traveling China. And this is coming from somebody who's been there a lot in the last couple of years. It's me. Let's get into it. Payments. This is the #1 thing most travelers struggle with because China is pretty much cashless. I mean, technically cash is accepted, but in reality, almost nobody uses it. Even street food stalls, taxis, and tiny little shops will rely on mobile payments. Everything runs on Alipay or WeChat Pay. So before you arrive in China, you need to set both of those up and connect them to your bank card. That way they're going to work seamlessly from the moment you arrive. Bonus tip, you need to keep your phone alive and charged because if this thing dies, you are in a spot of bother. Now that's why I always recommend carrying a backup battery charger with you at all times. And we'll talk about that a little more later because there are some you cannot enter the country with. eSims. Now, given your phone is so important, you are absolutely going to need an eSIM. And on my last trip to China, I went with Simify. I decided to get an unlimited data eSIM, and this was a game changer for me. Having unlimited mobile data meant I could navigate, translate, stream, stay connected, and more. If you've never used an eSIM before, don't worry, the setup is super simple. You simply install the eSIM onto your phone before you leave your departure location. That way, when you arrive, you are connected right from the jump. For me, it is just one of those small decisions that makes a huge difference. It makes my arrival into the country so much less stressful and a lot more seamless. So make sure you get your Simify eSIM sorted before you fly. Now there is a QR code on screen right now and a link in the video description so you can click through and get yours taken care of now. And guys, use my code Phoebe for 15% off. Apps. All right, let's talk more about apps because in China, they aren't just useful, they're absolutely essential. So these are all the apps I think you absolutely need to install on your phone before you set off for your trip to China. First up, you definitely need Alipay. This is how I like to make all of my payments when I'm in China. You'll also definitely need WeChat. Now you can make payments through WeChat, but I mostly use it for communication. So if you have some friends in China, if you have a guide, if you're trying to communicate with people, WeChat is how you're going to do that. Think of it as being like WhatsApp. Didi is China's version of Uber. Now it is safe, reliable, and easy to use even if you don't speak Chinese. But you do need to look out for scams. And I say that because it happened to me once, and I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. You'll definitely need some kind of a Maps app. Google Maps doesn't work really well, but Apple Maps seems to be pretty reliable. A translation app is 10 out of 10, non-negotiable, essential. Now, I just use Google Translate, and what I love about that is the little camera feature. I can scan menus and street signs, for example, and see exactly what they say. But I can also communicate with my voice back and forth or just type out what it is I need to say. And I will talk more about the language barrier in a moment as well. Just know that translation apps, they're essential. VPN. All right, let's talk about the internet in China because again, this is one that catches people off guard and it's caught me off guard a couple of times. Many Western apps and websites are restricted in China. So that means if you don't have a VPN, you aren't going to be able to access them. For me, that's included things like my Gmail account, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my Facebook, and all of those essential things, including WhatsApp. So if you want to access sites like those, you must have a VPN and it must be installed before you go to China. So if you've never heard the term VPN before, it's just a virtual private network. Think of it this way, it creates a secure tunnel between your device and the internet. I do mine all through an app, and what it's essentially doing is tricking the system. So I set my location to Australia and the internet I'm using thinks that I'm in Australia, which means I can access everything I would normally be able to access when I'm in Australia. So on all of my trips to China, I have used Surfshark VPN. Now it has been great on my phone, but not on my laptop. No matter what I do, I cannot get my laptop to connect to some hotel Wi-Fi and allow me access to all the things I need to run my business. This is why I'm harping on about the unlimited data eSIM, because with it and the VPN on my phone, I am able to hotspot to my laptop, and that allows me to continue doing my job. I can access YouTube, I can reply to client emails and all that kind of stuff. If you are somebody that doesn't mind getting off the grid, maybe a VPN isn't as important to you, but for me, as somebody that really needs to stay connected, a VPN is kind of essential. Now, one really important VPN tip for you is that you are annoyingly going to need to toggle it on and off at times, depending on what you want to access. So if you want to access all the China stuff, you want to be on Didi, you want to be on WeChat, all of that kind of thing, your VPN should be off. But if you want to look at Instagram, message your mom on Facebook, have a look at YouTube, my channel, all that kind of stuff, then your VPN needs to be on. So just remember what you're trying to do and make sure your VPN is on or off depending on what you need to achieve. I've gotten caught out a few times. I'm like, why is this not working? My VPN is on. What a goose. Language barrier. This is one of the questions I get asked the most about traveling to China. Is there a language barrier? Well, yes and no. Now, obviously, I don't speak Chinese, but I have never had a single issue when I've been in China. I have always had my phone with me, and that's really allowed me to communicate with people if I have absolutely needed something. But I found a surprising number of people actually speak English. And one thing I love about travel is even if you don't speak the same language, you can still communicate through body language and a big smile and a wave and a hi, and learning a couple of really basic phrases goes a long way. And I've also found that having local guides makes a huge difference. And I'm going to talk to you more about that in a second. Getting around. Here's some fantastic news. The transportation in China is incredible. The high-speed trains are fast, clean, affordable, and connect most major cities. If you are a confident traveler like me, they are such a good way to move between locations. Otherwise, domestic flights are really easy too. I found them to be very well priced. My number one tip though would just be to allow a little extra time when arriving at the airport, because some of the security checks took a little longer than I anticipated. The metro systems in China are really well organized too. I found the signage really easy to navigate, and again, I found it very safe, clean, and reliable. And of course, catching Didi around makes traveling a breeze. Culture, scams, and safety. I am going to be very honest with you here. Before I went to China for the very first time, I was unsure how I would be received as a foreigner. I didn't know if I would feel welcome, and I didn't know if the locals would really want me there. I guess I had in my mind maybe it was a bit of a closed society and they would prefer that I wasn't there. I was very happy to learn that I was completely wrong, and that could not have been further from the truth. From the very first time I visited, I have felt so welcome on all of my trips to China. I just feel like the locals are so happy to see me there, and they're so happy to see me getting involved in their life and their culture and all of it. If they are out doing something, the locals are very inclusive. So if people are dancing in the park, if they're eating, if they're having coffee, if they're talking, if they're being cute with a cat on the side of the street, whatever it is they're doing, if you make an effort to go over there and respectfully get involved, they are so happy. And that is my experience in general. And that is what I love about travel, is that you can have a preconceived idea, and yet when you go somewhere, you get to form your own opinion based on your first-hand experiences. And all of my experiences in China have been that it is very warm and very welcoming. As a solo female traveler, I have felt very safe in China. There has never been a situation where a man has brushed up against me or said anything inappropriate. I've never been worried about pickpockets or somebody taking something from my hotel room or anything like that. And I just bring my usual solo female travel common sense approach to what I'm doing and never had any issues. Now, with that said, China, one of your Didi drivers did scam me, and I know you guys are gonna be really upset about it because you're such an amazing culture and you're gonna feel disappointed in him. And I wouldn't bring it up, but other people need to know, okay? Because it happened to me and I don't want it to happen to them. Here's what happened. I arrived in Shanghai and called a Didi from the airport to my hotel. Now, when you book a Didi, it shows you the price, and I think you prepay in the app or something like that. So I believed I had done that. I get in the Didi, we sit there in silence. I don't so much as have a sip of water. We drive for like 45 minutes to an hour, get to the hotel, and when I get out, the driver's being really pushy and kind of rushing me and crowding me, and I'm just trying to make me feel a bit disoriented. And he's saying to me, you need to pay now, you need to pay now, you need to pay now. And he kind of pushes me to make this payment in the Didi app. When I go inside, I take a minute. I'm like, wait, that's not right. That shouldn't have gone down like that. And also, how much was that? Because that was a lot more than it should have been. Anyway, thankfully I was staying in a really great hotel, and I said to the staff, hey, I think something fishy's happened. They took a look at the app, and sure enough, the guy had added on a charge for a cleaning fee. And I was like, what does that mean? And they were like, oh, you usually apply that if someone's really like blackout drunk and they've thrown up in the back of your taxi. Did you throw up in the taxi? I'm like, no, of course. Like, I didn't even have a drink of water or a snack, nothing. And they were amazing. They jumped straight onto the Didi support chat for me and had a chat with them. And they said like, you know, this girl is a guest in our country and this is a really bad first impression and we can't allow this to happen to her. And they were so protective and really looked out for me, and we got the money back. Now the hotel staff did tell me they'd seen that happen a couple of times before. One guy, same thing, coming from the airport, they'd added a 700 RMB charge to his account. So just beware that it can happen. It's the one and only time it has happened to me though, but I would hate for it to happen to you. So just be switched on. And one last thing that I think is important for you to know about China is that personal space is different. And I bring that up because in Australia, we're all about the personal space. And the first time I went to China, it was just a lot for me. You know, everyone was like queuing or whatever, and they're right on top of you. It's a big population and it's just a different thing culturally. So if that does happen, just know it's normal by their standards. Breathe, go to your happy place and go with the flow, or do everything you can to stand at the back of places. Solo or guided travel? Now this is a question I get asked a lot as well. Is it better to go solo or should you join a private or group tour? I have done all three. I think, if I'm honest, I prefer the tours. I think it's really nice just to have somebody take care of all the travel admin for you. Book the hotels, sort out the private transfer, organize the timings, book your flights, book your train, and you just get to show up, switch your brain off, and have a great time. But for me, it's more than that. I think what I love most about travel is the connection, being able to connect with other people, with their history, with their culture, with their food, with everything. And when I have a guide with me, I'm able to do that on a completely different level. I'm able to talk to people more. I find locals approach more because they know that we're not going to have a language barrier. They can speak to the guide and communicate with me. I'm able to ask more questions and get deeper into the history and walk up on street food and be like, what is that? I need to try that. So for me, I find having guides really enriches the experience. And I would really recommend when you're putting together your itinerary, if you are going with like a group or a tour or something like that, just make sure you have some days free where you get to do some organic exploration, because those have been just some of the funnest days that I've had in China. Wandering around by myself, talking to locals, just having that organic discovery. It's really fun. I have been with 2 tour companies. I love them both and recommend them both. They are Odinovo and East2Go. I'll have links in the video description for you so you can check them out. Hand on heart, recommend them. They're both amazing. Food. The food in China is incredibly diverse. I was amazed at how much it changes from region to region, province to province. So if you only go to one place and only try that food in that one area, you are missing out. Now, many restaurants are going to have pictures that go along with their menu, and this is where your translation app is going to come in very, very handy. I was really surprised to see just how popular street food is in China, and they love to give you a sample before you commit to buying something, which I really appreciate. Now, in general, I found the street food to be safe. I've never had any issues with it, and it's super tasty and affordable. There are so many good things to try. Just make sure that you're choosing things that look fresh and safe, especially if you have a dodgy tummy like me. In terms of food allergies and preferences, I found China to be very accommodating. I am pescatarian and I found there was seafood and veggie options everywhere that I went. Just one thing I would say to look out for. I think sometimes the fine people of China were worried that I wasn't getting enough protein. So I would order something that would be like vegetarian or seafood based. And it just felt like the chef at the end was like, that's not enough protein for this poor girl. And they would like sprinkle a little bit of like bacon or chicken or something over the top. And when the food would come out, my guides would be like, no, guys, no bacon, take that off. And they would gladly remake it. But if you are somebody who like really cannot eat bacon or pork products, just keep that in mind. And I think if that were the case, you would definitely want to go with a guide. It would just ensure that you were not eating something you're not supposed to be eating. And now I feel really bad bringing this up, but I do have to say it because it did happen. Right at the end of my last trip to China, I got really sick. I picked up some kind of a bacteria and it messed my stomach up. I actually ended up in and out of the hospital with it for a while. That is the first and only time that has happened to me in China, so I do feel bad even mentioning it, but it is my experience. I don't know what it was, how I got it, or when it happened. I was in some really rural, remote parts of the Guizhou province. Could have happened there. I was also in Shanghai, could have happened there. It could have been as simple as I touched something, touched my phone to face, and there you go, you're ill. I would just say take a lot of precautions with your food, use a lot of hand sanitizer, and only drink and use bottled water to brush your teeth. All of which I was doing anyway, and I still got sick. I don't know how that happened. I hope it doesn't happen to you. It was gross. Where to visit? I am very blessed to have been to quite a few places in China for the vlog over the last couple of years. I have been able to visit Chengdu, Beijing, Xi'an, Nanjing, Shanghai, and the Yunnan and Guizhou provinces. Now, if I had to choose my favorite places among the bunch, Chengdu is my number one. I do love Chengdu. It is such a vibe, and I am just hanging out to get to Chongqing. That place looks so cool. I also really loved Xi'an and Nanjing. And the Yunnan province, which I was in the last couple of months, was amazing. I was just blown away by how beautiful it is. Now, before I started the vlog, I had been to some of the more scenic parts as well, places like the Yellow Mountain, and I just could not get over the landscape. And that's the thing about China. If you just go to the major cities, if you just go to Beijing and Shanghai, you are missing out. I just found that the scenery and the nature, especially around Yunnan, was just mind-blowing. So make sure when you are putting together your itinerary, you've got a balance of both. Definitely go and see the big cities, but then go to some places like Xi'an and Nanjing, and then go even further out and make sure you are seeing some of the scenery, because for me, it was rivaling places like Switzerland and New Zealand. It was just spectacular. I am gonna hit you with my bonus, must know, insider, hidden gem, secret, expert tips. That's all the buzzwords I could think of. Let's get into it. Make sure you have travel insurance for your trip. That one is absolutely essential. If you're traveling without travel insurance, you're nuts. You do not need cash, so don't worry about going to an ATM or getting money exchanged. As long as you have Alipay or WeChat Pay sorted, you're good to go. Always carry wet wipes and tissues with you. These are for the toilets. I've been to so many toilets in China where there's no paper once you get into the stall. It's a sad time. It's real upsetting. Speaking of toilets, start doing some squats. You need to build up your quad strength, because especially in some of the more regional areas, you're gonna come face to face with some squat toilets. And if you aren't used to it and you aren't ready, it's gonna be deeply upsetting for you. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. Now, with that said, I did encounter a lot of Western toilets, but when I was in places like Guizhou, it was squat time. If you come from a tipping culture, just know that tipping in China isn't expected. It's appreciated, but not expected. The first time I went to China, I found the air quality was really bad. This must have been in like 2009, 2010. I remember hitting the Ventolin really hard in Beijing. Now, in the last couple of years when I visited, I found the air quality to be great. But just be aware, smoking is back in China. I was shocked. I've seen people smoking in shopping malls. I saw someone's granddad walking around the hotel buffet breakfast with his bacon and eggs or his congee or whatever he had, and he was just sucking down a cigarette. It took me clean out. And if that happened in Australia, it would be such a shock. So just be prepared, smoking is back in a big way. And if you're somebody who has like smoking triggered asthma issues, make sure you're prepared. When you're packing, make sure you are packing some very comfortable shoes. I just find I'm walking around a lot in China and I'm on my feet a lot in China, and you don't want your shoes to be irritating you. If you're visiting in the winter months, just be prepared. It is freezing cold. Coming from an Australian climate, always get a little bit of shock when I'm in China in winter. You're going to need a lot of layers, thermals, beanies, scarves, gloves, the whole 9 yards, especially if you're visiting some of the colder provinces in the north. Now, one thing I found about the cold, it's not just freezing, it's extremely dry. So I needed to use a lot of lip balm, a lot of moisturizer, and I need to drink a lot of water. If you're bringing a backup battery pack for your trip to China, which you absolutely definitely need to do, right? You need to make sure it has the right symbol on it. So this one has the CCC symbol. If it does not have this CCC symbol, you will not be allowed to bring it on the plane to fly to China. They will check it and they will confiscate it. Make sure you have the right one. When you're moving around China day to day, always make sure you have your passport with you. I was just surprised at the number of attractions, trains, everything that needed to check my passport. And there were a couple of times there, if I didn't have it with me, I wouldn't have been allowed in. When you're preparing your China wardrobe for your trip, just know that China's really trendy and fashion forward. So if you've been thinking about taking a few fashion risks, this is the place to do it. What I mean by that is don't be afraid to like pack some really nice outfits. Don't be afraid to really go for it. You know, you don't have to just pack your outdoor adventure gear. You can pack some really cool stuff. I love Chinese fashion. I think they're so trendy. And I also think you need to not overpack. You want to bring your suitcase about half full because the shopping in China is epic. I always end up buying so many cool clothes, shoes, all that kind of stuff. And if you have a full suitcase, you're going to be really sad about it. All right, you guys, those are all my tips for traveling to China. If you are from China and there is something that I have missed, would you please do me a favor and put it in the comments below for other people? If you have any questions about traveling to China, again, pop those in the comments section and either me or some other amazing person from this community will give you an answer. If you're thinking about visiting China, go for it. It's such a cool destination. And I think the thing I've loved about it the most over these last couple of years is it still feels untouched. You know, to me, it feels like how Japan was many years ago. I can go to so many places and be the only Western tourist there, and that is so exciting for me. I just find it a beautiful place. It's so easy to navigate. The locals are so welcoming. The food is great, and it's incredibly affordable. Tick, tick, tick. Am I right? Now, if you are planning a trip to China and you want some inspo, like I said, I've been to so many places. I'm gonna have all of those videos linked in the video description for you. Check them out, watch them, see all the different cities and see which ones you think are going to resonate best with you for your itinerary. And again, I have so many links in the video description for you, so make sure you click through and check those out so you can get all your travel needs sorted before you go. And with that, you guys, that brings this week's episode to a close. I really hope you've enjoyed it and it's been helpful. Now, if you don't already, be sure to subscribe right now so you never miss a single episode, and say hello in the comments below. I hope you have a great weekend ahead, and I will see you with a brand new episode next week. Love ya.